Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Rewind, the place where nostalgia is happiness revisited. And thank you very much for joining me for this video this week. I really do appreciate it. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please remember to do so, and do drop a like in the comment section below. Tell me what you guys think of the content, and yeah, let's have a debate and keep on growing this community. Right, so the first thing I wanted to address in this episode of the Rewind is the backlash on The Acolyte. Now, two things occurred to me when I heard about all this controversy in the Star Wars franchise. First, they are still making Star Wars shit. And two, when did I stop caring about Star Wars? Now, my first memories of Star Wars started back in the early 90s. I mean, the very first movie we ever recorded on the old VHS machine was Return of the Jedi. And back in those days, I think, movies just popped up randomly. So what would happen is you miss a bit of the beginning and then record the rest of the movie. And I was just, as a kid, in the early 90s, I was about what? 10? No, not even. 6, 7, 8 years old. And seeing Star Wars Return of the Jedi for the very first time, it was amazing. I mean, George Lucas created one of the best IPs ever made, ever conceived by one man's brain, And I have a lot of admiration for that, because the man took one single idea and literally just made a universe out of it and made people fall in love with it. And for me as a kid, Star Wars Return of the Jedi was for a very long time my favorite movie of all time. And that's all I knew back then. It was pretty much hunted out the original Star Wars movie, watched that, and then The Empire Strikes Back. And it's just a phenomenal trilogy. And this is the trilogy that I grew up with. And this was Star Wars to me. So then when The Phantom Menace came out, I still got this on the VHS. I was like, yeah, it was nice to return back to the Star Wars universe and to see where it all began. I think that was probably the intention. So I have a lot of tolerance for episode 1, 2, and 3. Although I think it's not as impactful as the original trilogy, right? So I didn't mind this. I didn't mind this movie at all. I know people give it a lot of shit for Jar Jar Binks and all that, but I was very excited when it came out, saw it, and I was just back into Star Wars. And then episode 2, they had the misfortune of casting Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker. I'm still confused by that. I still, to this day, don't know how that happened. He is inaudible. I think he's a better actor than people give him credit for, but still, his performance in that film, those two films were just, I don't know. So that was exactly the point where I started losing it with Star Wars. And it was fine because, episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 were all wrapped up. You had the Clone Wars in between for the animated series, which was, that was fine. You could still explore a little bit of that lore. But that's the bookends for me. That's when Star Wars stopped. Now, I think as a keepsake, the other day, my brother sent me a whole box of my old DVDs and stuff, and this was right in there, and I've actually forgot about this. And I remember when this came out, this was round about 2004. This collection finally came out on DVD. It's been on VHS for the longest time, and this was the first release of the trilogy. You had a golden box and the silver box. They looked exactly the same. It's just the colors that made a difference. And this is for me where I think these DVDs have barely been watched, because me and my brother and sister, we watched these movies so many times, and yeah, it's nice to have the Star Wars collection again, you know, because I haven't thought about Star Wars in a long time. You just hear all the nonsense that's going on with the franchise. And yeah, and these DVDs are basically brand new. I think they've been watched maybe 3 times. So that's just, and yeah, it's just like, I was actually very reluctant to, wait, there's the bonus disc, some extra material on there. Yeah, I was very reluctant to buy this when I think I paid, it was about £25 back then when it just came out. And I was like, you know, it's a lot of money at that stage for me. And yeah, did I even really care? So I posted a question to my brother and said to him, you know, why did I even buy this? And he's like, you know, because we watched the originals on video so many times. It's like it's memories captured in time. And so I'm like, yeah, you know what, that's absolutely right. So I'm very chuffed to keep this. So yeah, then the arrival of The Force Awakens, and this filled me with a lot of concern when that movie came out in 2015. I was very, yeah, because what more was there to tell? I think everything was bookended. That was it. That was Star Wars for me, you know. A great trilogy and a not so great trilogy, but that was pretty much it. And as I said, including the Clone Wars right in the middle with the animated series. And back then my son was the same age I was when I first saw Return of the Jedi. So he wanted to get on the Star Wars hype, you know, and go watch the movie in the cinema. And we watched it, and, you know, it was fine, I suppose. It was fine. It was nice to get back, once again, like with Phantom Menace. It was nice to get back to the universe again. But when the film ended, you know, I was filled with, I think sadness is probably the right word, because just a little context. I'm a writer myself, you know. I'm going into production pretty soon, so I've got a good intuition about storytelling, and I think that's what filled me with so much sadness, is the fact that when I walked out of the cinema, I just knew where this was going, and that was pretty much it. When Han Solo died, that's when I cut off Star Wars. I never seen the Last Jedi, and the third movie, I don't even know what the name is. And then all the series that they churned out year after year after year, I've never even bothered to watch any of that. And looking back now, when I think this all started when Lucas sold Lucasfilm to Disney. 3 years later, that was in 2012, 3 years later, boom, The Force Awakens comes out. And they put it well themselves. I mean, they call it IP mining, you know, and it's just, and it seems like what's been happening, that the fan base is turning on them now. And I see everybody on YouTube going crazy about The Acolyte and how gay it is and how not Star Wars it is. So, and I don't give a shit anymore. I haven't given a shit in almost a decade. So, I don't know how you guys feel about that. It's sad for me that they ruined the franchise. I think that's the biggest thing for me, that they've ruined such an amazing, imaginative story by George Lucas. I mean, the man's brilliant. He's a genius, thinking of something like this and creating a whole story around it. A story that people bought into, you know, they've been buying into this for generations, and now it seems like they're just burning it. For the sake of money, and it's just unbelievable, you know. And I see the fan base get so angry about all this stuff that's been happening, and the wokeness of it all, pandering to the minorities. It's ruining storytelling, I think, in the long term. And you can't tell a good story when you have an agenda. When you have a specific message you want to force on people, you can't tell a good story that way, because you want to convince people that they should like it, instead of just allowing them to discover it for themselves. I think it's just absolutely ludicrous. And the thing is, I think people need to stop talking about Star Wars. I think the fans need to pull together and just to snub out that little flame of the candle. It's just a mess. And I think Star Wars fans need to, for the sake of Star Wars and what it represents, what we remember, because to be honest, it's probably only my generation that still cares about this. But my advice would be is just to help it die. Stop commenting on it, stop watching it, just stop everything so that they can learn their lesson. I hate this, that creativity is being suppressed because of people pushing agendas, and as a creative person, the corporations are just killing it. They're just killing creativity. Why hasn't there been a single good movie lately? I saw Godzilla -1. I think that's probably, the only decent movie that I've actually seen. I've actually stopped watching any movie because I just know when you watch the film, or first 15 minutes, I know exactly where this is going, or it's just, and the writing is so poor. The writing is awful these days. The corporations are just ruining everything because they think they can just churn out brand names and expect people to buy it. And people still do. That's probably still why they do it. So that's why I say people need to stop. If you love Star Wars, I think it's probably a good idea that you just help the brand just end it. All right? It's like everything, I was a big Linkin Park fan. I still am, but the band is no more. And that music that they released, that's what I have. That's the memories I have. We shouldn't be clamoring for more. We should appreciate and remember. All right, guys. Drop me a comment down below. I'll see you guys next week. Cheers.